All right, welcome to The Explainer. If you're a beauty pro in Kentucky, you already know there are tons of rules you have to follow. So today, we're going to slice right through all that dense legal speak and give you a really clear, practical guide to help you crush it in your career.
So, whether you're just starting out, you're a seasoned esthetician, or maybe you're a nail tech just trying to keep up with the changes, think of these regulations as your roadmap. And getting a handle on them isn't just about dodging fines, it's really about protecting yourself, your clients, and your business. Here's how we're going to tackle this. We're going to follow the path you take as a beauty professional. We'll kick things off with who's in charge, then get into what it takes to get licensed and work safely, and finally, we'll look at what happens if the rules get broken.
Okay, so first things first. Before we dive into the rules, we've got to meet the main character in this whole story, the board that actually makes all the rules. Yep, the official name is the Kentucky Board of Cosmetology, and these are the folks who oversee, well, pretty much everything in the beauty world in Kentucky, all the way from the schools that train you to the salon where you'll end up working. And believe me, their authority is incredibly wide-ranging. They don't just hand out licenses. No. They set the curriculum for schools, they decide what you pay for fees, they send inspectors into your salon, and they even investigate complaints. They basically control the entire life cycle of a beauty pro in the state.
Okay, so we know who's in charge. The big question is, what does it actually take to get your license? Let's break down exactly what you need to do. And wow, take a look at these numbers. This really shows you the kind of time you have to put in. For a full cosmetology license, you're looking at a whopping 1,500 hours of training. For aesthetics, it's 750, and for nail tech, it's 450. And let me be super clear, these aren't suggestions. They're the absolute mandatory minimums.
Okay, here's a pretty big update you need to know about, especially if you're in school right now or thinking about it. The student-to-instructor ratio, it's gone up from 20-1 to 25-1. Now, that might not sound like a huge jump, but think about it. It can totally change the class size and how much one-on-one time you get with your instructor. It's a really important detail. And you might want to sit down for this next part because it hits you right in the wallet. Renewal costs have just doubled. For individual stylists and techs, that yearly fee jumped from $50 to $100. And for salon owners, it's gone from $100 all the way up to $200. That is a serious jump in your overhead costs. Okay, so you did it. You got your license, you're working at a salon, that's fantastic. Now for the really important stuff, the non-negotiable day-to-day rules you've got to follow to keep everyone safe and stay on the right side of the law. A lot of this probably seems like common sense, but these are very specific enforceable regulations. Things like a fresh towel at a neck strip for every single client. Mandatory. And check this out. The state explicitly bans nail products with MMA. That's that nasty chemical you sometimes find in really cheap acrylics, and it can absolutely wreck a person's natural nails. It all comes down to public health. Now listen up, because this next point is absolutely critical, especially for estheticians. Immediate supervision and direct supervision, they sound almost the same, right? But legally, they are worlds apart. Immediate means a physician has to be physically in the room with you. Direct just means they need to be on the same floor and available to help. Getting this wrong is a huge deal. So what kind of services require that super strict in-the-room supervision from a doctor? Well, we're talking about things like injections, any kind of laser treatment, and even microblading. The law is crystal clear here. Doing any of these without a physician right there in the room means you're operating outside the scope of your license, period. And now for a really important new update, especially for those of you who love dermaplaning. The rules just got clarified, and here's the deal. Licensed pros can now perform basic dermaplaning without a doctor on site. But, and this is a big but, you have to first prove to the board that you've completed specialized training for it. This is a great example of the rules evolving to create a safe and legal way to offer a super popular service. All right, so we've gone through the rules for getting your license and for working safely, but how does the board actually make sure everyone's playing by the rules? Well, that's where enforcement comes in. This is pulled word for word from state law, and it doesn't leave much room for interpretation. What this means, in plain English, is that an inspector from the board can walk into your salon anytime during business hours without any warning to do an inspection. It's one of their main tools for making sure everyone's following the rules. So, what happens if someone files a complaint against you? Well, it's not just a random penalty. There's a whole process. First, you get notified, and you have just 10 days to send in a written response. Then, a committee looks at everything and makes a recommendation to the full board, who makes the final call. It's all designed to be a very structured system. Here is a number you absolutely have to burn into your memory: 30 days. If the board decides to take disciplinary action against you, whether it's a fine or a suspension, you have exactly 30 days to request a formal hearing to appeal that decision. And if you miss that 30-day window, that's it. The decision is final.
So after all of this, the training hours, the sanitation checklists, the supervision rules, it really all boils down to one huge question. What do you think? Do these rules strike the right balance between keeping the public safe and letting talented professionals have the freedom to really grow and succeed? It's the central question for the entire industry, and definitely something for every single pro in Kentucky to think about.